Right, it's a good evening, Mangwanani, Maneru. Good afternoon, Limadegwana, whatever time it is that you're watching this episode. We really want to welcome you. It's another installation of Taura Tinzwe, the web series where your perspective matters. And as such, you know, we do have people from different walks of life, different characters that come to the show, speak about this issue of fatherhood and the family aspect of life. And one of those today is Mr. William Baloyi. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you very much. I think just as you were starting the show, I realized how powerful and magnificent you are. And just as we're having conversations with you, I'm thinking, oh, okay, how's it going to go? And just as you did the intro there, it was very amazing. And thank you very much one more time for making time for me to be part of it. It reminds me of my Yali journey when I was about to join the Yali cohort, and they called everybody. They had to go in, and they called me, I think, a day later and said, William, but where are you? And I said, I'm at home. They said, no, you're supposed to be in Midrand. You're part of the cohort. And I went there. But that's because somebody had missed their flight. And I think that has just been my story.
Sure.
My story in life have just been, I'm that guy that has always been part of the list, but I was not told on time that he's part of the list.
Sure.
So being on your show is such an amazing honor. When I saw it the first time, the very first time I saw it, I said, I want to be part of this show. I have to be on this show. But I never told anyone about it. But I knew it had to materialize. It's an honor for me to finally confirm, and come take what God had promised us.
So when you've seen my show, you wanted to be part of the show, I'm just send a text and say, maybe what's the number?
So I think my faith,
Yeah.
again, you know, they say, and I love the fact that they say faith without works is doomed. So from my corner, I was going to do the little things that I've been doing all this time, that are relevant to the show,
Sure.
and to the platform that you've created, and the universe was going to do the rest of the things. And then we tried it the first time, the universe did not allow you to technology, and we're doing it again today. And the universe is allowed. God has approved and He has confirmed.
Yeah. So you find yourself now, you're a young father. How many kids do you have now?
I've got 2 kids, Amkhelang and Unkatli.
That's a boy and a girl.
That's a boy and a girl, 2 different mothers.
All right. And how have you found the experience of fatherhood thus far as a young energetic?
Look, I have to be very honest with you. Little did I know that I was going to raise siblings that belong to me as a father, right? Do I deserve Father of the Year award? No. Have I instilled the things and the tools that I believe that are going to take them far? Yes, I do. Just this weekend I went home, and my son now wants to identify with me so much that everything that belongs to me, he wants to have it all to himself.
Okay.
And I think that's a memory of him. We find it all on the phone now, because he says, you cannot be talking to me on the phone so much and we don't get to live those experiences. So he says, come pick me from school, come tell them, and it reminds me of the times that we've had in life. It's been a roller coaster of an event. It's powerful, it's beautiful. I was just talking to my daughter just before you came now, and I'm teaching her a couple of English words. I'm saying you're sophisticated, and the way she was just butchering it and whatnot. It was just, she's 3, about to be 4, the 11th of...
And you're teaching her sophisticated already?
Yeah, I'm teaching her sophisticated already. And the other day, like I said, a couple of my friends have voice note, which was saying, Papa, you know what, and she's 3 about it before.
Sure.
But what I love about it is that she was born the 11th of February in 2017.
Okay.
And that's the day actually that Udadu Nelson Madiba was released from prison in 1990 on the 11th of February. So I'm highly blessed and favored to have the type of kind of kids that one has really been able to have. And my son was born the same month that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. made the speech. So his name is Amkhelang and the other one is Unkatli.
Okay, so you are touching your kids' birthdays to one Nelson Mandela, one Martin Luther King. My kid was born in December. What you say? I'm surprised to
I saw your kid, your daughter. Yeah. I saw her on the floor the other time. The energy. How do you keep them?
I think the encouragement that I kind of give to people out there who speak, about these issues is when you kind of have a child on the other side of 30, you kind of realize that energy is no longer the same as you were in between. So good luck to you. You're young, I think you can still handle the energy and you'll be okay.
I can't. It's I think, again, I'm young, but I'm old-fashioned. I was raised different.
Sure.
We fight with my mother all the time. She says, but I want to because I'm trying as much as I can to have conversation with these people and try to negotiate with them, which is quite foreign to this color, right? To just negotiate with your kid, try to see what works, what does not work. I was telling my mother to say, yo, man, people say these kids are a bundle of joy. And I spent a lot of time with my son during lockdown, and I realized, flip, man, there's no bundle of joy here. Before every 5 minutes, I'm like, yo, man, flip. people have to deal with this. And I said with my daughter the other day, like I said in the live video, she did something that I did not like. So I'm like, how do I fix this? Based on how my mother raised us, she used to just, give you one or two, and you get back on the line. And like, do I do it with my daughter? Just before I was thinking about it, getting closer, it's like, hey, you're not going to do it. Sure.
Right there, I think as a young man, going into this whole thing, we're doing things now online, and I think, like you said, culture is almost shifting and becoming different. Now, aspects like discipline, as you so aptly put it, how must we now, what lesson, or what are the things that you've learned that you think perhaps in these areas, like discipline, for example, we have to now try and adjust and adapt to this changing environment that we live in today?
And I love what my mentor is doing with me right now. I'm impulsive and I'm a very emotional being, and my father and I have a good relationship, but the relationship grew from just me idolizing the man from far and never really having so much conversation. And with my mentor now, he says to me, he teaches me the things he wants me to do, and he holds me accountable and responsible for them, right? So he's like, he teaches that thing to me, and he does it himself with me from my age. We used to fight at first, but right now I'm learning about it. He's like telling me, he's like, yo, if you've got something with me in front of people, we're not going to do it. We're going to have a professional front, and then we deal with whatever to deal with, whatever anger that you have, whatever problems you have with me, we're going to deal with at the back. You can go all out. It's fine. It's quite foreign. It's going to be difficult. But I think we should learn to negotiate. We should learn to set the rules and say that if you do not do this, obviously just like if you don't pay your car for 3 months and you're not communicating and there's nothing like that, they have to come and take what belongs to them. It should be the same with our kids. From a very young age, don't think they're too young. Just negotiate with them and tell them that. I mean, sometimes you hear that your daughter maybe would say that. They say like, but why don't you take ice cream in the fridge? It's like, Papa, I already make a ice cream at 3 o'clock. Sure. You understand, right? There's that understanding. And a lot of kids do it. But until we forget to remind them of their responsibilities, of being responsible citizens. My son the other day comes back from school and says, yo, so my son is so naughty. Anything, but he would never swear him, or rather he would never swear. Like he does not like swearing. If it happens, I think he was pushed to the edge, but majority of the time he does not like swearing. Let's teach them communication. Let's teach them how to negotiate and just how to get around issues. Get them in solutions, get them in situations, and help them find solutions to the problems that we face with. And that's how we're going to go forward.
I love the solution-orientedness that you talk about here, and I think it's obviously something that we want to encourage and bring up in our children. Now, you mentioned the color and how for most of us really we've been taught, if Mama Urili, if Papa Urili, that's it, it's gospel. And you are now coming with this proposal that you have, that we rather than put the law down like that, let's negotiate. And if we really see kids as people who, as some people call them terrorists,
they can be.
How do you then propose that we negotiate? How does that ultimately, you think, affect their well-being as they grow up, instead of us just telling them it's like that?
Fantastic stuff. Two things. I think I love what DJ Spoo said the other day. He says, because of pushing the same thing over and over on television, that's why you've got all the people calling a toothpaste aqua fresh or Colgate. That's why you've got all the, like, every soft drink that you see on television being called Coke. You understand? It's because of this repetition that has been happening. And the majority of the time, if you remind somebody to say you're a star, you're a winner, you're a conqueror, you're the best, you're the greatest, it's same as saying you're a fool, you will never amount to anything, you're ugly, you're poor, it grows with them. So it's repetition. Boy, I said I don't want that. To a certain degree where, now when you negotiate, I do it with my son, he's very stubborn. And I don't spend much time with him, but I want to say, but we spoke about this. And then he says, Maraloe. Sure. You get my drift. Not repetition is very important. I think the late Dr. Miles Monroe talks about the amount of time, it is 90 days to learn and unlearn new things. And that's what we should do with our kids. Repetition. Teach them what you want them to take, but also learn that which they need from you for them to execute that which you need from them. But now you have to be consistent. They would have to be consistent. TJ speaks of commitment. Half committed family, half committed parents, then half committed results. But if you're fully committed and they are fully committed, we can have a result. Majority of the people that are leading the conversation in South Africa today are people that were raised unfortunately, not far from this other races. You understand? Maybe you look at your, the likes of your, for September, where he was doing fairly well, who has had some great relationship of moving from the school and being on into the other schools that he went to, where he was with other races, and he was taught this winning mentality. Now he negotiates. He's a negotiator. Yes, you lose it from time to time, it's okay. But now, what do we do with the kids? Let's negotiate. How do we instill this thing within them? Repetition. How do you make sure that the repetition takes place and applies? By being fully present. And if we are fully present, that is going to take place. My son right now is negotiating. He says, bro, let's spend much more time together. It might be on your side of the world. Let's do it. One thing, my father, when I was growing up, he wanted to inspire me. And as any father would do, he took me to his workplace. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, my father is a domestic worker, right? So when he got to the place where he worked, he then now took a spade and took the other things, and then he got into it. And that was the job that my father did on a daily basis. And he was trying to inspire me and instill confidence in me, but I'm like, so my father leaves home to go do into another man's house what he does at home, but only get paid for it this time around. And I got inspired, but I told myself that is not going to be the situation with my kids. Because at school, when they asked me, what does your father do? I couldn't really answer them because I was ashamed, because I didn't really even know what my father does when he gets to work. Because they tell him to do this today, do that tomorrow. And I made a promise to myself that I'm going to create a very, very, very great platform. That when I go to places, my son and my daughter can be proud to say, that is my father. Don't you know my father? He's the owner of this place. My father is the owner of this brand. My father is the owner of that, is the owner of that. Not as a breaking type of kind of background, but just to say that you cannot not know my father. Because growing up, I thought my father was a policeman or a soldier and he had a gun. But little did I realize that my father had none of those things. But because he was my father, he was my hero, that had to transpire. And that had to happen. I went to an event one time in Johannesburg at 1 Fox Street. And I met this beautiful young lady. The father was hosting an event there where there was a hair event. And your nieces were there, just sorry for mentioning names, but they were there. And I come across this young lady. He's like, hi, uncle. I'm like, hey, baby, how you doing? He's like, do you know my father? I'm like, no, I don't know your father. He's like, no, you cannot not know my father. He's the owner of this event. I was like, I owe my daughter and my son this. Look, you cannot not know their father. And that's why I do the things I do. That's why I push so hard.
Now you kind of touch on there the fact that you had your dad at least around when you're growing up, which I think makes you a minority pretty much, because I think it potentially steps
in South Africa. It does.
It's a heartbreaking issue.
Unfortunately,
most people grow up without their dads at home. They don't have that kind of support, and you've gotten all these lessons, positive and negative, on both sides of the aisle. And I think now looking at what you have with your son, and obviously this girl that you mentioned here, and obviously that kind of thing that you want to pass on to the next generation. What's the thing you say potentially the most important aspect or lesson that you want to teach to these your children that you potentially didn't get from your dad or God?
That they are God certified. I was telling somebody the other day, my dad does not talk too much, and we never had too much conversations, but when I took a decision to come to the South African State Theatre, after having a very tough year trying to study public relations, he said, I got him out like, Dad, I love you, and he kept quiet, didn't respond because it was 40, and I couldn't say I love you too. And he said, I want to go into the arts, and he says, will it make you happy? Do you love it? And I said, yes, and my mother was against it, and my dad said to go do it. And that's what I want to tell my daughter and my son and teach them. And this video is going to be vital one day, because now they would know and they would feel it, and they would leave it to say that our dad knew about us, he cared about us, and that's why he did the things that he did. But now I just want my daughter and my son to know that they are valid, they are qualified, they are certified, they are sent, and they are called. And nobody is better than them. None before them, none after them, which makes them the only one. So in all the 7 billion people that God has created, amazing people, they too matter. And they were sent for a specific message to be implemented and delivered. And that is qualified. If their father can go through the things that one has went through, and still be here and tell them that I love them, and still have an imperfect, perfect relationship that I have with them, their dreams are qualified. qualified, their names are qualified, their existence is qualified, and they are called for something bigger than what they are here for.
That's good to hear, and I think I take it from the short period that I've known you anyway.
Yeah.
You seem to be that kind of a go-getter guy. You know, you go for something that you want. So much that I was telling one of our crew members here that you know, you even on a buddy basis with people like DJs Boo.
Sure.
I saw him wearing a t-shirt. This guy, liberation. Okay, so officially, there now on the stage.
Yeah.
How do you think that has helped you? You know, that kind of push, that kind of decision that you make, for example, to say I want to start the arts and break it to your parents and go for it anyway. With of course that kind of sort of. How do you think it's brought you thus far to really to relate to people that you do, you know, that thing inside of you?
And funny enough that you say that. So when my then girlfriend got pregnant, I'm Kalan's mother. After she broke the news to me, I then opened my first non-profit organization called Masube Youth Initiative. When my second daughter was about to be born, or my second child, Unkatlia's mother at the time was pregnant with Unkatlia, I then registered mental liberation.
Sure.
So now this go-getter type of kind of mentality comes from the fact that I knew I had an appointment with the future. Dark or blue, I had to make it. I was any subject that you can talk of at school. I could talk about it, but I couldn't write it. Now, which automatically then now qualified me as the. I was not top achiever, nor was I a poor achiever. So I was average student. It qualified me as an average student, not because I couldn't do them, but because I couldn't write them. So I promised myself that whatever it is that I'm going to do, I'm going to be the best in it. Because I couldn't be the best writer of physics test, mathematics test. I'm going to be the best speaker that I can be. I can be the best presenter that I can be. I'm going to be the best radio DJ that I can be. And that's why I tell people, say, even though I did not complete my course at Boston Media House, but I can proudly say and affiliate and associate myself with people that have got bursaries in life and not doing something that I was not in love with. I mean, I got a bursary from more flavor at Boston Media House to do media. You know, and I've always had that mentality, the go-getter mentality, the winning mentality, just because I knew that I mattered and that I was enough. And the challenges that I went through, because my mother calls me Mokhomotsi, which means comforter, meaning that she lost my sister who her name was Neo, and Neo means gift. So I know that I'm here to comfort not only my mother and my dad and siblings and my son and daughter, but everybody around. So should I be at the back and say, no, it's not my time, I'll be selfish and I'll not be giving to any of those people. You talk of TJ's Boo, it's pure luck. You know, in 2015 when we came to the same building in the South African State Theatre with this more fire, it was in June. I remember very vividly wearing a red coat. We were talking about it just the other day. I can safely say I think we're one of the very first people to touch and feel the kind of more fire at the time, and he was going through a lot at the time. So it's pure luck. And I did not get shocked or flabbergasted later when he wore my t-shirt, later when I introduced him at Maporisa's event. It's you can't cheat the hours.
Sure.
That's what I was saying to you. I look at your show as the biggest in Africa right now.
Come on.
Yes, we're talking about, it's the biggest in Africa right now because I'm not here anymore. I was talking to Theo Baloyi the other day, the CEO of Bats, and he says to me, they are happy that I'm opening a store, I'm opening like a headquarters, a new headquarters in Centurion, but I'm not here. I mean, my office is in Dubai. I'm in 100 stores worldwide. And I'm like, oh, Theo. Right? so I'm not here already. So when he wore the t-shirt, I was just telling my team that I'm like, yo man, I'm no longer there. Because already now there's a bigger thing to be done. There's a bigger things to be chased. And I'm doing all of this just so my mother can be proud, just so my dad can be proud, and just so they can be respecting my daughter and son and everybody in the family can just have their say because of the surname that one has just created here.
So tell us a bit more then about this mental liberation concept. Where did it come from and why do you find it so important for you to be telling us about it in the first place?
I thank God for you and for your platform. Why do I thank God for you and for your platform? Because how do you then explain mental liberation to a platform that is not liberated itself? Okay. And I saw the approach that you took. You speak about issues that our people on a daily basis are faced with. These are problems that we need to find solutions to because as of current, we are doing so well. You speak of minority of when I talk to you, it's like, yo, where's your father? And she's not like, my father's not there too. You understand? So mental liberation, to be quite honest, came from visions, dreams, also conversations. And I was just asking around, like, yo, we speak of unemployment, but Blue Ribbon brings X amount of breads into the community every day. They take something like 10,000 rand every day, times that by 30 days. How much is that? That's Blue Ribbon alone.
Sure.
But it's something that we can do ourselves. Iwisa comes to the community, takes away how much? Round about the same thing. I'm like, but something is not right here. Something is not normal here. Because I come from a poor background and my parents are poor, automatically it means that I'm supposed to die poor because of their background. I mean, that's mental slavery. What are you saying to me? Because I come from a village and a background where millionaires and billionaires are not created and TV stars and radio stars and international contributors of conversation, are you saying that because I'm from Bangkok I do not qualify to be in the next level? That is mental slavery. And then the conversation came from there when Mam Dorothy Masuga said, I don't understand why is it that people sometimes have to go borrow money when you've got over 49 million people at the time in South Africa. I think it was around about 2010, and that conversation stuck with me. Just about, I'm coming to the story of how mental liberation came about. He says, if we were to collect 1 rand from 49 million people, we've got 49 million rands to allow black young people to make mistakes. And I'm like, but that's liberation right there. That's knowledge right there. None but us can free ourselves from mental slavery. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery without Bob Marley.
I was gonna say, you look too young to listen to Bob Marley.
And later now, Ubaba Mzakimbuli says, when the mind is held, the body becomes useless. And God was saying, I remember having this dream, and God was saying to me, mental liberation, mental liberation, mental liberation. That's how it was born. It took some time. I spoke to quite a number of people. They didn't believe it. They didn't see it coming. I sat down with a couple of partners that it would include a lot of people. And until we came down with it and registered it in 2016. Obviously, my then girlfriend was pregnant at the time, and Unkatli's mother registered it, and it's never been the same ever since then. But it's just about, it's an African movement that was designed under principles and values to mitigate and alleviate mental slavery, hate. The amount of hate that our people have. I mean, I remember when Teko Modise was doing so well in South African football, the hate that he had to deal with just for doing well. And I think he says he got into a meeting where they told him, you're too good, you have to slow down. It happened with WHP when it was too good, status, theatre and whatnot. They might not talk about why WHP left us, but how do you move from that state where people say, no, you're too good, you are too much of a winner, slow down. And then now take you out like your chapter never existed in history. And that's because you and I don't own media platforms. How do we tell that WHP, Jabulani Tsambo, who came, killed it like no other? How do we then now document that? And I saw my people now then ban archive when it was time for them to protest. So I am in dissatisfaction with something the government is doing. The first thing I ban is a library, and I said that's mental slavery. Reference. And already with reference, our people are not so good. How do you remember that then we had the likes of Sol Plaatje? It was one of those things. So mental liberation was just found from those principles and ignorance again. To say that we're the best version Africa has ever given birth to, but we're looking outside. Taura spoke about it the other day. Our former president says, for the longest of time, you've allowed the rest of the world to tell you who you are. And you allow them to define you without defining yourself. Slavery again. So that's ignorance to us. But also to fight xenophobic and Afrophobic attacks. He touched on it again. Can you explain xenophobia in your own mother tongue? No. I fight with my brothers all the time. They are two. They used to have a tech team. Together with my little sister, trying to beat me because it was bad. Bigger than them, and they trying to have a team of trying to just tackle me down, which was good and great, but we fought as siblings. But our love for each other is amazing. Now, when we fight as kids of the diaspora, and as we fight as kids of Mother Africa, then international media will define us as showing hate against one another. Are we therefore then defined by that? People fight all the time. Violence is violence and it's wrong. I don't care if it comes from Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Ghana. It's violence and it should be dealt with abroad.
I take it you're not just saying this because I'm from Zimbabwe.
It would be wrong of me because now I was raised by a community of Africans ever since I came to Pretoria. I was raised by Zimbabweans, I was raised by Nigerians, I was raised by Ghanaians, to a point where I used to sleep in their studios like this. K2 Kamal used to have like something like a studio where he like sew his garments and whatnot, and we sleep in the same studio. There's a guy called Kofi, he's from Ghana, my good brother, who takes me back into life, who prophesied actually that my daughter was going to be born, and my daughter was born. So it's one of those things where you're like, oh, okay. So these are my brothers, these are my African brothers. But I realized this, when Julius speaks of borderless Africa, I'm like, Brother Julius, I hope you guys did a thorough research. Because in Ghana there was a rule that says you can go anywhere in Africa, but in South Africa.
Sure, that's the thing. I think just to add on that, I used to do a lot of African travel actually. For the company that I used to work for, and one of the things that kind of came to the fore as I traveled is that because I was using a Zimbabwean passport, it was so much easier to get into African countries versus using a South African passport. So there is, I can tell you, right there, that's
you catch my way, right?
But I think just on that, for me to say, is bring this whole mental liberation thing, as you talk about all of these stuff, why is this so important, I think, for you to try and transcend this message, especially particularly to the next generation?
Because
when you talk to your children, and we talk to our children, why do you think it's important for us to help them see things from your perspective?
And that's, thank you God for Brother Mo, and thank you God for this team and your platform. You're amazing, you're doing something great, it's powerful. Now, I tell people all the time, I say, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to get an intellectual to say, this roll on. God qualifies you and then certifies you and says, go do it.
Sure.
Right? But I believe that if yours and my children were made aware of their importance and instill confidence within them and self-belief within them and say to them that Africa is enough. Prophet Lumumba says, if you want to see the power that Africa has, lock all your African doors and watch the rest of the world starve.
Sure.
These are not his actual words, but he was just saying and trying to make us aware of how much the world would starve if Africa would just close its doors. The minerals that they use for the cell phones that we use, where do they get them? In DRC. So yours and my children are supposed to be made aware of how to take care of Mother Africa. For Mother Africa has never been in need of a people than at this current generation. The rebirth and rejuvenation of Mother Africa happened during COVID-19. It shows you that even if you try to suppress our people, especially Mother Africa, and you threw them to the deep end, they would still survive. It went back to Unkoboti when our people wanted alcohol, and SAB said I've closed. They said, if it's alcohol we want access to, we'll still make it ourselves.
No, you're a busy man, I think just to bring the thing to wrap, I think the last question I always ask people in this particular conversation is, if you were to imagine, of course, that the entire world, Africa, particularly, of course, the world, was listening to you right now, watching this video, this message, what's the one thing you want to leave with them today?
I would say that Africa, for the longest of time, your missing pages in history books have been taken out because you took a stand back and waited for the world to applaud you. For no one would ever place their value, no one would ever place your value above theirs, especially if they're feeding you. All this foreign aids, feeding Africa, poor children, Africa being the top continent where people die of hunger, poverty and starvation, then therefore you are defined. And nobody would ever put your value above theirs, especially if they are feeding. So I'm saying to Africans in Africa, let us take our rightful stand of healing the rest of the world and telling them our story the best way we know how. It's quite sad that in Africa, one of the very first few movies to win, well, there's a lot, but in South Africa, particularly where I come from, Tsotsi, an Oscar award-winning movie, the story was told by a white person about the township line. The other person, I stand to be correct, they spoke about Yizo the other day, they said a white person behind it. It has nothing to do with them. We are Africans in Africa. Let us take our rightful standing. We cannot, therefore, be defined by other people about what Africa and Africans are about and what is Africa about. But they were not in Africa and they are not a part of Africa. we need to define ourselves differently.
Sure, thank you very much for that. That's something, I think, a message that I really love to hear. And I love to tell people out there that, Africans, take your place. You know who you are, you know you're the kings, you're the queens out there. And I think it's important that we start to recognize that. And I think, Mr. William, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I hope you've heard it for yourself out there, people, that we really have to identify who we are, know our identity before you can actually make a difference and get mentally liberated.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Like, maybe just before I talk too much, but just before, I thank God for you. And I thank God for your thinking. And I thank Him for the power that He has rested in you. I don't know what Muringai means, but you are the one that knows the power that lies in that sinning. And you are the one that was informed of the power behind you and your creation and how God gave birth to you and the circumstances of the time. And I'm saying to you, never have we ever been blessed with such a fearless leader.
Come on.
This is a very powerful media. Media itself, it's powerful. A lot of people have dodged it.
Yeah.
And I thank God for you, for the approach that you are taking. And we're blessed to be on the show. It's going very far. And thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Until another episode of Taura Tinzwe, we appreciate you. See you next time.